No, I totally agree with that. You were mentioning about the pandemic, and that reminds me of when I was still a student and pandemic hit, and even as a student where we only have to go to uni and take courses and go back home and do assignments, but we still feel lost because what we're supposed to do, which way we should go, let alone people, grown-ups or old people who have been so accustomed to doing one thing in their entire life, and suddenly the world changed in a way that they did not expect, and then they don't have anyone to guide them that where should they go in order to adapt with the new situations. And I think that it's really um that is one thing I really like about lifelong learning. It's not just about sitting with your books and pen. It actually learning how to say cope with the world, and adapt with the world, and better yet, to change the world in a better sense. And what impact specifically, if you can give a visualization of the impact of lifelong education, of the researches that ASEM lifelong learning is providing to the world, what impact would it bring to our society, like a visualization of it?
Yeah, you know, you're touching on something really important there. I mean, a few different things, I suppose, but like one thing that you know, for people to sort of realize is that I have a colleague in the US, and in the US they talk about generation zero. This is when people come to the country for the first time, and very often people arrive in a country for, you know, the first time as a refugee or an asylum seeker or whatever. And very often they don't have much of a stake in the society. They find it hard to get jobs and you know, education and all the other things that people need to get on with their lives. And lifelong learning in that context is really, really important, because it gives them opportunities to re-establish their families, their lives, their futures, their hopes, and, you know, go new places with it. So I think, you know, we often underestimate how really, really, really important all of that is, because it can change the dynamic in a family. It can change the dynamic for the siblings, for the parents, the children, but it also impacts and has a fundamental change effect in the wider community, the wider society, which those people engage in. So I know I'm maybe idealistic and naive, but if all of us set out to try and make the world better for everybody that we encounter, we would have an awful lot better world. And I know that's maybe idealistic and naive and so on and so forth, but that is how I see the world. And that to me is really, really important way of looking at the world. We should be trying to make the world a better place for everybody we encounter. And during the pandemic, unfortunately, we saw people who took the opposite view. We saw a huge majority of people who said, okay, we have to do this. We have to wear our masks. We have to take our vaccines. We have to self-isolate. We have to do all the 101 other really inconvenient things that we need to do in order to make sure that there's a future for people. Everybody gets one life. If they die from COVID or COVID-related illness, or it impacts on their lives or their children's lives, I mean, that is the impact for that person forever, and nothing can be done to unchange that. So I think it was quite difficult to listen to people who, you know, spoke about the vaccine in negative ways and so on. And it's not like as if vaccines were a new thing, really. Vaccines have been around for a while, and we've seen, you know, you go back to smallpox as an example, you know, so we end smallpox through vaccines, you know.
It works, actually.
It actually works. We eliminated a global disease through vaccines.
One of my
so, you know, and actually there's a guy running for the and I'm not talking about Donald Trump, I'm talking about another guy. He's actually a member of the Kennedy family running in the US at the moment for the Democrats, and he's denying all about vaccines and so on and so forth. Now, he's an intelligent person, a well-educated person, comes from a privileged background, comes from a very, very, very esteemed family globally. Yet he is spreading really, really, really dangerous mistruths around vaccines and so on, and that's, we really need, we really need people to be able to understand, to be able to analyze these things and listen to what he's saying and disentangle it, to say, wow, does this really stack up? Does this really make sense? And I think lifelong learning can really give people the tools to do that, to be critical, to just don't take the first answer that comes your way, but say, okay, is this really true? Why do people think that, and so on and so forth? And to have data and research to back it up obviously is really, really, really important. But we are in a very troubled time, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to try and do what we can to make the world better. And for me, there is no better place to do that than in lifelong learning. And of course, that's me. Other people can make their contribution in different places and in different ways, but that's the one that I know that I can make a contribution in, and that's why I'm involved in this project.
I think you're right about all of the negative opinions when a research is published. I think that is also one of the most challenging point whenever a researcher publish their paper or their I should say, or their findings, is that there will always be an opposite opinion that says, no, I don't believe in that. I don't trust it. It does not persuade me.
And of course, these opinions are important. I mean, opposing views are really important. And it's really important for people to tease out and to ask the questions, so like when somebody, and look, we've seen in the past some, research afterwards is found to be, not exactly right either, and it changes over time. So having a critical opposing view is really, really important, but it should really be around based on argumentation and analysis, and really looking at the facts and trying to tease out what exactly is going on here, and so on and so forth, rather than just, coming out with some kind of crazy ideas and then promulgating them as if they are true.
Yes.
Which unfortunately is what very often happens.
That brings me back to ASEM Lifelong Learning Hub researchers, or those who work with ASEM and become a member of ASEM as researchers. How would they, how would you describe them? Because, researchers, they have to back up their findings with analysis, and opposing views are really important. And I would assume that if our researchers can defend their findings and say that, okay, those opposing views, no, it's actually still wrong, and here are the evidence. Would that describe our researchers? Because we are, I mean, not we, but the researchers of ASEM, they are the one who actually come up with policies and advices and practices for lifelong learning. Would that actually describe our researchers?
Yeah, but I suppose it's important to realize that what today makes sense, tomorrow the world will have changed a little bit. So nothing is fixed and certain. And I wouldn't like our researchers to be overly definitive in terms of their findings. What we discover things that indicate and demonstrate certain trends, demonstrate certain ways in which we could and should go, and how we can do things better. But that doesn't mean we've reached the end point. So it's always open to further discussion and further debate and further research and further refinement, because the world is constantly changing. So I think all researchers have to have an open mind. They have to be open to unexpected outcomes of their research. They, should not be going in with preconceived ideas of where this is and what the answer is. You may have an idea about it, but you should be open to persuasion, and you should be open to analyzing the data that's presented to you, and to analyze it in an open way, and be prepared to accept that, maybe it's not right. Maybe there's another way of looking at this, and there are other possibilities. It's not an easy thing to do, of course. Sometimes our egos get in the way of us and so on. But I would like to think that we try as researchers to be as open-minded as possible, and to seek out new meanings, new understandings, new interpretations, new findings, and so on and so forth, to, because that's how we contribute, and how we set up the next generation of researchers to carry on the research in new and different directions and so on.
Well, me as the next generation of researchers, I feel immense pressure. And no, you're absolutely right about that, about being able to defend your findings, but also keeping an open mind for any changes, because the world is evolving through times. Tomorrow will be different. I'm not sure what I'm gonna find in tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and you can be, you can have a very clear idea about things, and then you can discover that you're actually wrong, that things are quite different than you imagine them to be. And that fascinates me. I think there's no day goes by, but something or other comes along, and you say, "Wow, I hadn't realized that." It's not the way you think it is. So you have to be open to the different possibilities, for sure.
the whole idea of things change and time changes is really crucial to researchers, because that is also what I realize when I do literature review, where I get papers from, I don't know, 5 decades ago, and it's still right. But then I found another paper that just literally 3 years ago, and somehow it was proven wrong.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like in most disciplines, there's sort of a canon of kind of really important authors or really important researchers that set the field, and very often a lot of the kinds of things that they said are still valid, today. I mean, I'm not a physicist or anything like that, but Newton, was given credit for discovering the idea of gravity. And now, I mean, it isn't as if gravity doesn't exist anymore, but physicists have a different understanding of what gravity is now than what Newton had. So you can say he's right. It's, I don't know what percentage he's right, but he's right to, some percentage. But obviously there are changes. And, it's the same with medicine or sociology or any other field of research. Some things are still valid and true, and others aren't, or we have a more nuanced or better understanding of them. So we know that blood circulates in the body. I think Harvey was the person who came up with that, but I'm sure what he understood and what a modern day surgeon understands is completely different. Well, not completely different, but substantially different. The learning in between has substantially moved on in terms of all of that. So so some things will are discovered in a certain way and are valid, but then, as you say, other things just change very, very, very quickly. And that's the dynamic of the world we're in. But again, I mean, the advent of technology can help us to do a lot of research in a more nuanced and effective way. I was listening to an interview with a a surgeon, I think I think it was to do with the eyes, but they were talking about how AI could analyze the eye in a way, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of images that have been captured by physicians, over the past while, and can analyze all of these, hundreds and thousands of these, in a way that a surgeon, no matter how experienced they are, could never do. So I think this is really, really important, and this is one of the things I suppose that AI is going to be able to do for us. It's going to be able to give us a level of analysis of things like big data of all kinds in a way that we didn't have up to now. So it is going to provide us with a lot of useful new ways of analyzing and doing things, and we are going to make new discoveries, no question about that.
And you are absolutely right about AI, which has been a debatable topic amongst the working class. No, I wouldn't say working class, but the active population of every nation, is that when AI happens, well, it has been existing, but when AI has been putting into workplace, some jobs were lost. I think we have been debating about this for, I don't know, years now, that if a machine can do a job better than a human, that job will be lost, at least to that human. So I think that is what
the printing press did that,
That's yes. And I think that's where lifelong learning is really important to us, because one day my job might, as a marketer, my job might gone because of AI.
And look, I mean, I can't remember how many times I changed my career, but I changed my career a lot of times, and I'm certain you will change your career a lot of times. And maybe in 25 years, you're doing a job that there's no title for now. There's no concept that it will exist.
There will be
but the world will change, create opportunities, and you'll be in this new role somewhere. And so that's for sure. But I think once you yourself stay as an active lifelong learner, which I'm sure you will, then you stay abreast of changes and opportunities and so on and so forth, and you can navigate the world in a better way. And I think that's really what we try to do for people. We try to help them to navigate the changes in the world that are around them, to stay current and stay active. And like, all of us are encountering technologies all of the time and new opportunities, and it doesn't really matter where you are or what you're doing. There are always these things coming our way, like people being able to activate things through voice recognition and things like that, that they can be useful for everybody. And for older people, there's a lot of technologies that can make their lives easier and maybe make their lives more livable and so on, but that requires learning for them. They have to learn how to use these technologies and benefit from them. Young people, the same. There are always new things coming their way and so on and so forth. And also, old things, as well, as you mentioned, there are old things that are worth learning as well. Like, so I'm sure that, in another 1,000 years, if human beings as a species still exist, they'll still probably be reading Aristotle and Plato and so on and so forth.